Welcome to this video on how to use the data structure type a queue in Java. My name's Andy Wicks, and in this brief video I'm going to be showing you through the items that you need to get a queue to work. First of all, you need the imports. Java util iterator will allow you to iterate through the class, in other words, loop through it, and we'll see that in action. I'm going to use a linked list, so I'm going to import Java util linked list, but that could also be an array list. And I'm going to import Java util queue. That I need for the queue. So let's get into the program itself. In main, I'm first going to declare a queue. This queue is going to hold string values and is going to be called queue. However, queues are an abstract class, so I can't instantiate them directly. I have to use another type of data structure. In my case, I'm going to use a linked list. You'll notice that the linked list has empty angle brackets. It's taking string from the type in front of queue. And then it has a constructor, the round brackets. The constructor will allow me to construct a new linked list and put it into the queue type. Next, I'm going to add 3 items to the queue. I'm going to add Wilma, Shaggy and Scooby-Doo. Having got my queue, I can then create an iterator. An iterator is a special type of data item that holds where it is in a list of things and the value of whatever it is it's looking at the time. So I'm going to create this iterator called IT, and it's going to iterate through queue. Now we're going to print out the initial size of the queue. So queue is of size, well, in my case, 3. Now we're going to use that iterator. So whilst the iterator has next, so it's going to start off at the beginning of the queue and then work through each item in the queue and having a look at the value of that item. So it's going to turn the iterator item next into a string, that's called casting, and put that in iterator value. So the string will hold the value of the current item. Now I'm just going to display that current item. So if we were looking at the first item, Wilma has been added to the queue. Now I can move down to doing something. I'm going to loop through each name until they're printed out, so Wilma, Shaggy and Scooby-Doo. And then I'm going to peek. Peek is just having a look to see what's at the front of the queue. The first person to be added to the queue was Wilma, so Wilma's name will appear there. Then I'm going to poll the queue. Polling means take it off the queue and do something with it. In my case, I'm just displaying it. So I'm going to say poll Wilma has now been served. That moves everything in the queue up by 1. So when I peek again to see who's now at the front of the queue, I'm going to get Shaggy. And the final size of the queue, well, that's going to be 2. So let's see this program running. Let's have a look and see what we get out. What we get is the initial size of the queue is 3. Wilma has been added to the queue, Shaggy has been added to the queue, and Scooby-Doo has been added to the queue. Now, when we peek, the person at the front of the queue is Wilma. When we poll, we can say Wilma has been served. We've done whatever we want to with Wilma. And finally, we can peek at the person who is now at the front of the queue, which is Shaggy. So the final queue size is 2. This is all very abstract. So let's have a look at a little graphic that will show that in rather better detail. Imagine that we have a supermarket queue. Here's the supermarket lady working away feverishly. Now Wilma gets added to the queue. We then add Shaggy to the queue. And finally, we're going to add Scooby-Doo. Now, Let's have a look and see what happens when we peek. When we peek, we see that Wilma is the person at the front of the queue. When we poke, Wilma gets served. Shaggy then moves up, Scooby-Doo moves up, and that's what happens when we poke an item. Now, if we peek again, we can see that Shaggy is at the front of the queue. That's how queues work in Java.